All right, everybody, good afternoon. I feel like spreading a little positivity around today. I feel like spreading around a little bit of positivity right now, and I just hope I don't look stupid in about 24 hours here. So let's talk about the Seahawks offense a little bit. Let's talk about recent trends. Let's talk about what this offense is doing right now compared to what it was doing throughout the season. Because I think we've all kind of figured out in the NFL, you don't stay consistent the whole season. You start out the season one way, you start playing a different way later, you ease into another way, and then by the end of the season, it's a roller coaster. No team is going to be completely consistent all the way through, consistently good or consistently bad. It's just going to be up and down. And the best that you can hope for as a fan of a team is that when the season ends and you go into the playoffs, you're on an upswing. So I want to take a look at this offense in terms of one of my favorite stats, EPA per play. So, EPA per play, for those of you who don't know, is expected points added per play. It's a great way of evaluating how good an offense is doing on a per play basis and how good a quarterback is doing on a per play basis. These are attempts to evaluate a player not just based off a handful of plays, but every single play that they participate in. So, this is one of my favorite stats, and I want to use it to illustrate something because if you use this lovely stat, EPA per play, for the entire season, that's what we have on this page, courtesy of the wonderful website rbsdm.com. I think it's run by Ben Baldwin and a couple other people. You will see a very complicated chart here that I'm not really going to go into too much here because there's a billion data points here, and that's just ridiculous. But I do want to pull up this list of quarterbacks sorted by EPA per play. And I want to focus in on the Seahawks side of things. And I want to scroll down here and get to a couple different Seahawks quarterbacks that have played a non trivial number of snaps this year and see where they rank in EPA per play. If you go down here, you will see that actually Drew Lock is ranked 17th in EPA per play, 0.087, and Geno Smith is ranked a couple spots behind at 20th, 0.065 per play. Now, is that to say that Drew Lock is the 17th best quarterback and Geno Smith is the 20th best quarterback? Of course not. But in context, it does go a long way in painting a picture of how good an offense is. So, within the Seahawks offense, as it has been this season, Drew Lock and Geno Smith have both been, well, compared to every other quarterback that's played a non trivial number of snaps this year, they've been good. But in terms of where we want them to be, which is to be a good quarterback compared to every starter in the NFL, not really. Like, you take a look at a lot of these guys ahead of them. Yeah, a couple of them started the season as backups. You've got guys like Nick Mullins up here, which is wild. You've got guys like Jake Browning here. He obviously started the season as a backup. Taylor Heineke as well. But you would definitely want your quarterbacks to be better than 17th and 20th. This is, as the kids say, kind of mid. They're just playing mid football right now, and we want them to be better. Well, I have good news for those who wanted our quarterbacks to be better because in week 13, the Seattle Seahawks made a big change on their offense, by which I mean they actually got their stud right tackle back in Abraham Lucas. And since Abraham Lucas got back in week 13 against the Cowboys, the Seahawks offense has turned things around in a pretty incredible fashion here. And not only has it happened for one quarterback, it's, you could say, happened for both. So this is the exact same data, just only looking at the last four games the Seahawks have played. So Dallas, San Fran, Philly, Tennessee. So EPA per play, Geno Smith is number one by far. It's not even close. Geno Smith is the number one quarterback in the league over the last 4 weeks in EPA per play. It's not even remotely close. And now some people are going to say, well, he only played in 2 games because he played against Dallas and Tennessee. He missed the Niners. He missed the Eagles. Hey, Drew Lock bumped himself up a lot as well. He's here at 12th, which is not great. But on this list of players, which goes actually 32 deep, that's above average. That's pretty decent for your backup quarterback. You can see the EPA numbers, the raw numbers gone up as well. It's 0.134, and for Geno, it's 0.422, which is, I mean, that's just insane. That's not sustainable. But the point is, it's both quarterbacks performing better. So to say that it's just Geno playing better or Drew Lock playing better, I'm sure there's some of that in there. But what I'm really trying to highlight here is that this offense has gotten better as a whole with the return of Abe Lucas at right tackle, and it is the rising tide that raises all buoys, or however that saying goes. I think you guys know what I'm talking about, though. Everything has gotten better since Abe Lucas got back. And let's keep in mind here, we played 4 games over this stretch. 2 games for Geno, 2 games for Drew. Geno Smith played one of his games on the road against the Cowboys. Elite defense. Drew Lock played one of his games on the road against the elite Niners defense. They played 3 of their 4 games on the road, period. So this is not just an example of them playing bad teams. They've played some of the best teams in terms of defense anyway, and in general too. All 3 of those teams, Cowboys, Niners, Eagles, 3 of the teams they played are among the NFL elite, at least relatively speaking. So things are starting to click for this offense when you look at the way the quarterbacks have been able to elevate their play. Although, in reality, the point I'm trying to make is it's not so much them elevating the play as much as it is the situation has been elevated around these guys and they're performing at a much higher level. And to illustrate that point, I want to talk about things a little more broadly as an offense. If you look at EPA per play for the entire Seahawks offense on the whole season, they're at 11th, which is okay, right? That's tolerable. That's above average. It's not quite good, but it's passable. It's okay. We can live with that. 0.022 EPA per play is, like I said, it's above average. It's not good. It's not great. It's not elite. It's above average. But if you reduce it down to the last 4 games they've played, again, this includes elite defenses like Dallas, elite defenses like San Fran. And I know the Eagles have a bad defense. It's still a good team. And 3 of those 4 games on the road, we're third. We are third in EPA per play behind only the Niners and the Packers. So something has started to work here in the last 4 games the Seahawks have played on offense. And if you take a look at the chart that splits things by dropback EPA versus rush EPA, you can see pretty much everything we owe to dropback EPA per play. Like, look at where the Seahawks are in terms of dropback EPA per play. Only the Buccaneers are higher. The only reason why they're not first is probably because Drew Lock had to play 2 games. If Geno had played 3 or 4 of those 4 games, we'd probably be number 1. So you take a look at something like this, and if you're going to have any degree of objectivity, you got to admit this is something that can kind of get you a little bit excited about where this team might go if they make the playoffs, if they can get the right matchup. Like, these are the kinds of things that you look for from a team that is entering the postseason needing to get hot. Now, granted, they're not getting hot in rush EPA. They're a below average running team in EPA per play, and that's a problem for sure. But my point is, you can clearly see that it's not just Abe Lucas, by the way. The whole offensive line is probably getting healthy. Cross was dealing with turf toe for most of the season. He's probably almost past that at this point. That's probably a big thing that is pushing this offense in the right direction. A guy like an Evan Brown might be moving past some of his injury issues, and while he's still a deeply flawed player, I think he is getting a little bit better with every week that goes by because he's moving further and further away from these little dings he's had. So you are seeing this team come together at the end of the season here offensively, at the very least as a passing team. Again, In overall EPA per play, they are number 3 in the entire NFL over the last 4 weeks. So again, I'll look a little bit silly if the Seahawks go out there tomorrow against Pittsburgh and stink up the place on offense. But I think you guys can see the point I'm trying to make here. I think you guys can look at this and understand that I'm illustrating that something is getting better here. When you look at where this offense started versus where it is now, when you look at where they've been for most of the season versus where they are now, something massive has shifted here, and it's not the teams that we're playing. I want to be very, very firm about that. And just to further illustrate this point, I want to look at one more thing: third down conversion percentage. You guys know we're bad on third down. Everybody knows it. If you scroll down through this list, you'll see if you take the whole season, the Seahawks convert 35.5% of their third downs, which is 26th in the league. One of the worst, right near the bottom. But the only reason why that number isn't lower, like the 31st ranked third down offense in the league, is because of what has happened over the last 4 games. So going through the last 4 games here, the Seahawks on third down against the Cowboys, 9 for 14. Against the Niners, this was actually the bad one, which is going to make what I'm about to say even crazier. 2 of 11 on third down. Against the Eagles, 9 of 16 on third down. And then against the Titans, 7 of 13 on third down. You add all those numbers together, it's 27 third down conversions divided by 54 third down conversion attempts, meaning the Seahawks over their last 4 games have converted half of their third down attempts. Half. Literally 1/2. And if you go back to this list right here, you will see 50% would lead the entire NFL. Now, obviously, they need to prove it over a longer sample size than that. Buffalo's converted almost 50% of their third down conversions across the whole season, which is way more impressive than 4 games. But the point is, this is starting to get better. This is starting to get a lot better here. And I remember I made a video right after the draft earlier this year talking about the third down correlation between a successful team and converting on third down, a successful offense and converting on third down. I discussed how drafting a guy like JSN is going to help this team on third down. Drafting a guy like Zach Charbonnet would help this team on third down. And for a long time, it looked like it just wasn't going to happen this year. It's happening right now. And if you're looking for some reason to believe that this late season surge is worth it, this really should make you realize that it is worth it. The team playing this well on offense and doing this many things right in the important areas of football, that we have a quarterback who over his last 2 games has been an absolute monster of production. 0.422 EPA per play, even over just 2 games, is outstanding. Especially when he was knocking off rust for the first part of one of those games. And getting 0.134 EPA out of your backup quarterback is also pretty extraordinary. Some of the rankings that we have on our offense over the last few games. Again, 3rd in overall EPA per play. This is so much more important than a draft pick that may or may not be good. This is like proof of life. This is proof that this offense can work. This is proof that something Shane Waldron is doing is working. This is proof that something going on with this offense, at the very least for right now, is working better than it has, really, I would say, at any point this season and maybe even last season. Last season, I don't think there was a stretch of games where we were this good. Because again, look at the defenses we're playing. These are some of the better defenses in the league we've had to deal with. All right, so there's my optimism for the day. There's something going on here. And again, if we suck it up tomorrow and play bad on offense, then this whole video kind of goes out the door and nobody's going to care about any of this stuff. But I'm telling you, there is something going on here with this Seahawks offense that is very different from what we've seen over the last, first 3 months of the season, basically. And that's worth something. And not only is it worth something, if it carries over into the playoffs here, this team's actually maybe a little bit dangerous.